there's been a number of polls, some of which put Reform UK ahead of the Labour Party. So in terms of Keir Starmer's party, no surprise, as soon as it gets into government, its popularity falls. We've seen the boring relaunch, so-called, or reset. I just thought myself, this is just so, how should I put it, tiresome. I didn't bother to take much notice of it. Either way, of course, it hasn't lifted Labour's fortunes. Okay, so some polls put Reform UK above the Labour Party. The one that I've just looked at in the Independent, the poll of polls, has Labour Party on 27%, Reform on 21%, and the Tories on 25%. That's the Labour Party down 1%, Reform up 3%, the Tories down 3%. Liberal Democrats are sort of bumping along way out of sight. But my point would be here that it is interesting how much the right-wing press are actually promoting Reform UK. And indeed, my own feeling is that the more that the Labour Party goes on about we will solve mass migration, and of course it won't, it will not be able to do it, just like Rishi Sunak with I will stop the small boats. No, Rishi, you will not be able to stop. The more it feeds in to Reform, so it is a danger. And of course, early next year, we will have Nigel's best friend, Donald Trump, in the White House. And we'll also potentially, I don't know whether it will come to realization, the possibility at least of Elon Musk becoming a British as well as an American citizen. I don't know whether he's still a South African citizen. It wouldn't surprise me if he still was. But, you know, he's got enough family connection and he can buy his way to it. But remember the story, although it's been denied, but the talk of 100 million donation to Reform UK. I listened to the interview on the BBC with Nigel Farage, and he sort of spluttered somewhat and said, we really don't need 100 million. I know it's small fry in American politics, but what we're talking about in normal terms in British politics is 10 million, 20 million in a general election time. So what the hell they would do with 100 million, I don't know. The danger actually is that the government would come in and simply legislate, outlawing such sizable donations. Either way, the point is there that Reform UK does represent a right-wing threat, a viable right-wing threat. And what we have is its transformation into a more regular party. And Nigel Farage is not only boasting about 100,000 members, and I presume that will be climbing, there's also a whole string of defections that have already happened and are expected to happen. So, for example, I can't remember his name, you all know, comrades, the main writer on Conservative Home, for example, has just defected from the Tories to Reform UK. And there's talk of various MPs following him into Reform UK.